Chosen one, what you are hearing right now is not accidental, and it is not ordinary. This moment was not random, and this message is not noise meant to fill space. This is a divine interruption. Heaven has been watching you quietly, not judging you, not rushing you, but preparing you with precision. There are seasons when God works loudly, and there are seasons when He works silently. You are coming out of a silent season, and silence does not mean absence. Silence means formation. For a long time you felt unseen, overlooked, and delayed. You questioned whether God remembered you, whether the promise still applied, whether the calling was still valid. But heaven never lost sight of you. Every delay, every pause, every closed door was part of alignment. What is about to happen is not sudden to God, even if it feels sudden to you. It has already been discussed in the spiritual realm. It has already been approved. Heaven is familiar with the version of you that is about to emerge, even if you are still trying to understand it yourself. You may still see weakness when you look at yourself. You may still see gaps, unanswered questions, or areas that feel unfinished. But heaven sees something different. Heaven sees maturity forming where insecurity used to live. Heaven sees authority developing where fear once ruled. Heaven sees alignment where confusion once dominated your thoughts. What you are stepping into is not based on how you feel about yourself. It is based on who God has declared you to be. This is where many people get stuck. They believe becoming happens after confidence arrives. But God does not operate that way. He releases identity first, and confidence follows later. He calls you before you feel capable. He appoints you before you feel qualified. He positions you before you feel ready. That is why this season feels heavy. That is why it feels intense. That is why something inside you has been stirring without a clear explanation. Your spirit knows change is happening before your mind catches up. Becoming always begins internally. Long before life shifts externally, something shifts within. God is transitioning you quietly, deliberately, and deeply into a version of yourself that will no longer fit where you used to sit. Old environments will start to feel uncomfortable. Old conversations will feel draining. Old patterns will stop satisfying you. This is not because you are better than others. It is because you are becoming different. Many people never understand this phase. They assume discomfort means something is wrong. But often, discomfort is the signal that growth is happening. You are outgrowing spaces that once felt familiar. You are shedding an identity that was built in survival, not in purpose. Survival kept you alive, but it was never meant to define you forever. For a long time, you were not weak. You were distracted. And distraction does not always look sinful or rebellious. Sometimes distraction looks like responsibility. Sometimes it looks like stress. Sometimes it looks like constantly putting out fires and handling life without ever lifting your eyes to see what God is doing beyond the crisis. Life began to speak louder than truth. Circumstances became more convincing than promises. Pain became more influential than purpose. You adapted. You learned how to cope. You learned how to endure. You learned how to manage disappointment. But in the process, you stopped dreaming freely. You stopped expecting boldly. You stopped imagining yourself walking fully in what God once showed you. Fear slowly became familiar. Not loud fear, but quiet fear. The kind that disguises itself as wisdom. The kind that tells you to play it safe, stay small, and avoid disappointment. You began to call hesitation discernment. You began to call avoidance peace. You told yourself you were being mature, when in reality you were being restrained by wounds that were never meant to lead you. Comfort slowly replaced courage. Staying safe began to feel more reasonable than stepping forward in faith. But hear this clearly, and let it reset how you see yourself. What you survived did not define you. It refined you. The fire did not consume you. It strengthened you. The pressure did not crush you. It shaped you. Survival was never the destination. It was preparation. Your story did not begin with struggle. It began with intention. Before pain touched you, before fear influenced you, before life tried to label you, God already knew you. Your identity was settled before circumstances ever spoke. What you went through may have shaken your confidence, but it never altered your calling. What tried to shrink you did not erase what God placed inside you. The original design is still intact. It may have been covered by layers of disappointment, delay, and doubt, but it was never destroyed. And now, God is not restoring a patched-up version of who you became to survive. He is restoring the person He intended from the beginning. This is not a slow adjustment. This is a turning point. Something decisive is happening internally. Once this shift locks into place, you will not be able to think the same way again. The fog will lift. The lie you have been carrying about yourself will lose its authority. You will start recognizing yourself again, not through the lens of trauma, but through the lens of truth. The battlefield has always been the mind. Long before actions change, thoughts decide direction. Your life has not been random. It has been following the instructions your thoughts have been giving it day after day, often without you realizing it. For a long time, your thinking was shaped by survival. Survival thinking focuses on avoiding loss, managing pain, and staying functional. It protects, but it does not build. God is now shifting you out of survival thinking and into builder thinking. Builders think long-term. Builders think legacy. Builders ask not just, how do I get through this? But, what am I meant to establish? This shift will change how you see yourself, how you interpret challenges, and how you approach the future. You will stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a visionary. Victim thinking is anchored in what happened to you. Visionary thinking is anchored in what God is doing through you. One looks backward for explanations. The other looks forward with purpose. One keeps you rehearsing pain. The other invites you to participate in promise. The questions in your mind will begin to change. You will stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what if I finally become who God called me to be? That single shift changes everything. Fear loses its dominance. Possibility takes its place. Obedience becomes more important than comfort. Scripture says transformation happens when the mind is renewed. Not informed, but renewed. Renewal means replacement. Old mental patterns are being dismantled. Old lies are losing authority. Old limitations are being exposed for what they are. This is not about positive thinking. This is about alignment with truth. As your mind shifts, your life will follow. You will notice clarity replacing confusion, direction replacing drifting. You will begin to see yourself differently, not through comparison, insecurity, or pressure, but through identity. Other people's pace will no longer intimidate you. Their progress will no longer discourage you. You will understand that God's timing in your life is intentional and precise. You will stop shrinking to keep others comfortable. You will stop dimming your light, softening your convictions, or minimizing your growth just to maintain peace with people who are unsettled by change. Comfort will no longer cost you authenticity. Growth is not betrayal of your past. It is honor to the God who brought you through it. This is where identity starts to show. Not in words, but in posture. How you carry yourself will begin to change. Not with arrogance, but with understanding. You will stop bracing for rejection before it arrives. You will speak with calm authority. You will move with intention. Confidence will no longer come from controlling circumstances, but from companionship with God. This is the beginning of becoming. And once it starts, it cannot be reversed. Chosen one, what is happening now is not just an internal realization. It is a behavioral realignment. What God changes in the mind must eventually show up in movement. Faith was never designed to remain theoretical. It was meant to be lived, demonstrated, and expressed through action. That is why this phase feels different. You are not just receiving insight, you are being called to respond. For a long time, faith lived quietly inside you. You believed, but you delayed. You agreed with truth, but you hesitated to act on it. You waited for conditions to improve, for clarity to feel complete, for confidence to arrive fully formed. But faith does not wait for certainty. Faith moves with trust, and trust grows through obedience, not observation. Now, God is shifting faith from an idea into a lifestyle. What you say you believe will begin to show up in how you decide, how you speak, and how you respond. Faith will step out of the abstract and into the everyday details of your life. It will influence your routines, shape your priorities, and govern your boundaries. It will no longer hide behind good intentions or postponed obedience. You will notice this first in your words. Your language will change before your circumstances do. You will stop framing the future with fear and start speaking with expectation. Even when you do not have all the answers, your words will reflect trust. You will no longer say, "I don't know how this will work," with doubt, but with surrender. Your speech will carry weight because it will be rooted in alignment. Faith will also begin to influence your decisions. You will stop choosing solely based on comfort, familiarity, or approval. You will begin asking a deeper question. Does this align with where God is leading me? That question will start guiding your choices. Some options that once felt safe will begin to feel restrictive. Some opportunities that feel stretching will begin to feel necessary. This shift will also affect what you tolerate. Faith sets boundaries, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You will no longer entertain conversations that drain your spirit or habits that pull you backward. Not because you are superior, but because you are aware. Direction requires discernment. Growth demands separation. What once felt harmless will no longer feel neutral. Scripture teaches that faith without action is lifeless. That does not mean faith is loud or reckless. It means faith moves. It adjusts. It responds. Action is not the opposite of faith, it is the evidence of it. When faith is alive, it steps forward even when the full picture is unclear. It trusts God with what it cannot see while obeying Him in what it can. This is where hesitation begins to break. You will start realizing that much of what held you back was not lack of ability, but waiting too long for permission. You waited for validation. You waited for approval. You waited for someone to finally say you were ready. But readiness is not something others grant. It is something you step into. God never told Joshua to wait until fear disappeared. He told him to be strong and courageous. Courage was not a feeling, it was a decision. It was obedience in motion. Courage does not mean fear is gone. It means fear no longer decides. And now that same command is echoing in your spirit. You will begin to understand that confidence is not the entry point, it is the result. Obedience produces confidence. Movement produces clarity. God rarely reveals the entire plan before you move. He reveals direction as you walk. Light appears for the next step, not the whole path. This requires trust, not control. As you move, something powerful will happen. Your past will stop sounding like a verdict and start sounding like preparation. You will stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start declaring, "This prepared me." Nothing you endured was wasted. Nothing you survived was meaningless. God specializes in turning scars into credentials. What tried to break you is becoming the very platform through which God will speak. Your story is not a liability, it is a testimony. The pain that once silenced you will now give weight to your voice. The struggle that once confused you will now give clarity to others. You did not just survive, you were trained. For some of you, disappointment taught you to stop expecting. You learned how to function without hope because hoping hurt too much. You survived, but you stopped dreaming. Yet Scripture says hope deferred makes the heart sick, and God is not restoring you to function, He is restoring you to fullness. Hope is rising again, not as wishful thinking, but as an anchor. You will begin to imagine again, believe again, expect again, not because circumstances suddenly changed, but because you did. Alignment accelerates what delay once slowed. When timing meets obedience, movement happens quickly. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are prepared. There is a time for everything, and this is your time for awakening, alignment, and acceleration. What took others years, God can accomplish in one season when alignment is present. This shift will not be loud, but it will be noticeable. You will not need to announce your transformation. People will sense it. Your discipline will speak. Your peace will speak. Your discernment will speak. You will carry a quiet boldness that does not seek attention but commands respect. You will stop dimming your light to blend in, not aggressively, not arrogantly, but anchored. Boldness rooted in identity, not ego. Like Moses standing before Pharaoh, not because he felt powerful, but because he knew who sent him. That same awareness will begin to govern how you move. Your focus will shift forward. Regret will lose its grip. The past will stop demanding your attention. Scripture says to forget what lies behind and press toward what lies ahead. That does not mean the past is denied, it means it no longer leads. This is where becoming turns into embodiment. You are not just learning who you are living it. Faith is no longer paused. Obedience is no longer delayed. Identity is no longer theoretical. Chosen one, you are not just surviving anymore. You are becoming. You are not just aligning, you are moving. You are not just believing, you are building. God is not finished with you. This is the beginning of visibility, responsibility, and impact. Stand in faith, lift your expectation. Walk forward knowing heaven is backing you. This season is not fragile, it is fortified. What God is establishing now will last. This is who you are becoming. This is your season. This is your moment.